Tori here. I'm back. I'm back to do part one of my reading wrap up for the month of July. For July, I tend to read a lot of books just because I really don't have anything else, especially with COVID and social distancing. I really don't have a lot of things to do, so I have been relying a lot on reading. I also was participating in a bunch of reading challenges that come into play later half in the month, and as I'll talk about in my summer favorites video, part one, you'll see that I have been doing a lot of nonfiction reading, and that will come up in that video, but I will talk briefly through them. So I'm going to wrap up the first 10 books that I wound up reading. So yeah, let's get into it. The first book that I wound up reading was a graphic novel, and it's called Boy Crazy Stacy, and this is a graphic novel that is inspired directly by the Babysitters Club series, and I am finally caught up on this series, and I'm really excited. Timing is sometimes such a fickle thing. I literally was reading this when I was watching the Babysitters Club TV series that I adore, by the way. I'm going to talk a lot about that in my summer favorites video, but again, I love this novel. I love this graphic novel series so much. I've said this before. I was really a Little Sisters fan when I was a kid. That was just the age I was in when I was reading those books. So I really like re-experiencing a book series that I've not really read, but in graphic novel form, because there's so many books. I also just really am starting to love graphic novels, so I'm really like this. I thought this one was a little bit interesting because it only focused on 2 characters and not all of them, which I found to be super fun. And this book is based on there's a TV show about this episode, which I also really enjoyed. And I wound up giving this, I think, 3.5, 4 stars, but it was great. So if you haven't checked out the TV series or actually checked out these books, highly recommend it. And the next one comes out, I think, in September. The next book I am going to chat about is one that I am so excited. I have finally completed the Keeper of the Lost Cities Legacy series. Well, not I've completed it, but I've caught up on it. This has been a 2-year goal. I think I started this last year, but I finally caught up. I'm so happy that I finally caught up. Book 8.5 is coming out in November, and it's a little bit of like a different format, but this book was everything that I wanted it to be. I had super mixed feelings about Flashback. Wasn't the big fan of it, but I love this book so much. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for book 8.5. This book really was so captivating. I love seeing the characters. We also focused on some more of my favorites in this read that we didn't get in the past couple of books, and these books are monsters. This is like almost 800 pages. Doesn't feel like you're reading it like an 800 page book, but oh my goodness, I am so invested in these characters, and I care so much what happens to them, and I just can't wait to see what happens next. The next book I'm going to chat about, I think is coming out this week, or it came out last week, but it's More Than Maybe by Hahn. I really wound up liking this book, so much so that I have put her other book on hold at the library, and I'm probably going to read it next week. But this basically follows 2 characters, and you get both point of views. You have a British love interest in this book, which I adore. He has a twin, which you know how I feel about twins. If you've been watching my videos for any length of time, I have a thing about twins. I love them so much. I secretly wish I was a twin. But it basically follows this girl who's like a music vlogger. I'll say like she's a vlogger. And then you follow this young boy whose dad is like a former rock star, and their paths wind up crossing where they're in the process of saving something. Romance, hilarity, and drama ensues. It was so good. I was captivated from page 1. If you love Love Song and Other Lies, if you love Open Road Summer, if you love a book that has like a job element, I was so captivated by this book. I really enjoyed it, and it does have a music element, but it's more of like a behind the scenes music element. And I'm like in my real life, like I'm a stage manager and I'm like a techie, so any book that kind of looks behind the scenes of the arts is one that I really enjoy. There is definitely a music component with this. There's definitely like a romance in this as well. I really love the romance. I know there's going to be a companion book following Beta's best friend in subsequent years. I think like next year we're going to get that one. But definitely would check this out if you like anything music related. If you love Love Song and Other Lies by Jessica Pennington. This is definitely a book that you should definitely pick up. And then the next book that I wound up reading was a little bit of a departure for me, but I wound up picking up Nasty Women, Feminist Resistance and Revolution in Trump's America. I picked this up quite a few months ago, but as I'm going to talk about in my new favorites, I've been trying to not force myself, but like make some time to read some nonfiction books, and I wound up reading this. I really enjoyed it. I don't really rate nonfiction because I feel like it's just people's stories, but I thought that a lot of these stories were very interesting, and it's just an interesting way to look at someone else's point of view on topics. So I really wound up liking this one, and I definitely did add a few more short story collections to my TBR. I am probably going to do like a roundup of all the nonfiction books I read this summer if I do read a few more, but this was the first one that I wound up finishing. And the next book that I wound up reading was another graphic novel, and this one is called New Kid. This is another diverse read that I have been allowing myself to read or make time for, and this is a graphic novel that follows a young boy, and he is a new student in a mostly white school, but it's a very, very prestigious school, and you kind of follow him through his year, and you kind of see all the challenges that he encounters, and it was a very like hard-hitting book, and one that like as a teacher I thought was a really important read to see how kids are treated in schools, and you don't even think of it. I thought the friendship dynamics were really interesting. I really liked how he was like an artist and had that element kind of. It was a really, really good book. I really enjoyed it. Found it to be super fast paced, and it definitely tackled issues that like I think all kids should be reading. Like I think it was a book that I think would open up a lot of cool conversations in a classroom. There is going to be another book that follows like his best friend in that book, and I am equally excited. I'm going to definitely pick that one up as well. But it's just it makes your heart break a little bit, like when you read about these point of views. And I have to try to do more as an educator to make sure that those stories like that don't happen, or they happen less. But I just really liked him as a character. I love the characters. I love the family stuff. I love the friendship dynamics. It was just a really, really great story, and one that I really think that should be on more reading lists for young kids, because I think it definitely takes you outside your own life a second and kind of makes you look at it and really look at racism and prejudice and you know, how those things can really impact a children's life and how they feel about being in school or how they feel about this. And I was really impressed by that, and I wound up giving it 4.5 stars. We'll definitely be checking out the second book in that series. The next book I'm really happy about because I have been wanting to catch up on the canon of Cassie Clare since like 3 years. So I finally caught up, and I finally read Red Train of Gold. Guys, I love this book. I thought it was great. I've been on a historical fiction kick recently, and it's been a bit since I read the Infernal Devices series, but oh my goodness. I have a spoiler discussion of this reading vlog coming up soon. I think it's probably going to be in August. But this book was just great. It basically follows the kids of the main characters in the Infernal Devices series, and I have found some new favorites. I love the characters. I love the point of views. I was really captivated. I don't want to talk too much spoilers, but just know that this book really wowed me, and I was so happy that I picked it up, and now I have to wait, well, not that long, but it's coming out in February. As long as nothing gets pushed, it's coming out in February, so I really liked it. Wound up giving it 5 stars. Thomas, Cordelia, James, and Lucy, I am here for you. Really excited to see what happens next. And yeah, so I really wound up liking this book as well. The next book I wound up reading was Silence of Bones by June Her. This was a book that really took me off guard, but it basically follows this young girl in 18s in Johnson, Korea, and her name is Seoul. I think that's how you say it. But basically, in this time period, men could not touch women, like at all. So there's a murder mystery that Seoul winds up getting like involved in, because she can touch female bodies after they're deceased. So she kinds of becoming sucked into this like murder mystery, and it kind of takes in a direction that she's not even expecting. She's also on the hunt for someone in her family, and it was a very cool political themed novel. I think I struggled a little bit with the pacing in this read. And it was a little bit rushed at the end, but I really loved reading about a time period that I knew nothing about and kind of focusing on a mystery. The mystery elements were really interesting. I wound up giving this 4.5, like 4 stars, and I would definitely read more by this author in the future. Kind of going across the same exact line, I also wind up reading Chasing Starlight by Tara Bailey Black. This book is coming out in August. I think it got pushed a little bit because of COVID, but this one is a 1938 murder mystery. And it's basically, it follows this young girl named Katie. She is kind of a little bit infamous. Her parents were basically, her dad basically was one of being involved in the death of her mother, and it kind of became a national sensation because her grandfather is a silent movie actor. So Katie winds up moving in with her grandfather and kind of becomes embroiled in like a murder mystery on like a Hollywood set, and she winds up actually working on the Hollywood set. And I've really enjoyed that she wasn't an actor, but she was like a production assigned assistant. I really liked the time period. I thought the romance was super fun. I love the side characters. It was like a motley fit of like misfits that wound up living with her grandfather. And again, this was really, really great. I have another Tara Bailey Black on my TBR, hopefully for the fall. But this one was really, really fun. Very, very fast-paced read. This book, my arc is a lot longer because of but it's only like a 300-page book. Really kind of fun. I would love to see this character again, maybe in like another mystery. The mystery was not what I was expecting. Like, it wasn't the mystery I was necessarily expecting, but it was one that I really wound up enjoying it, and I wound up giving this book 3.75 stars for review. I finally completed all the physical Shadowhunter books that are out. So that means that I wound up reading Red Scrolls of Magic by Wesley Chu and Cassandra Clare. I went into this book and I was a little bit confused because this book is set after City of Glass. So it's set way back in the timeline. So it just takes you a little bit to like remember like all the stuff that you know about these characters hasn't happened yet. But it definitely was more like a buddy cop story. It definitely was like a beginning of a romance for Alex. I keep on calling them Malik, and it's Alec and Malik. Oh my god, I keep on saying that. Alec and Magnus. That's their name. Sorry, I keep on saying it wrong because everyone calls them their ship name. But I thought the pacing was not the strongest in this book. But one thing I did love is that it really focused on them kind of developing their relationship. And it really was like, it wasn't an easy book for Magnus. I think Magnus was going through a lot. I like that you got both characters' point of view. I also really enjoyed that you got to see other characters in this series that we really haven't spent a lot of time with at this point, and they become very important in like later books. And there's one romance that was really, really featured in this that I wound up really enjoying. But we got to see like a lot of side characters. We got to see like some shout outs to people that no longer exist in the current timeline. Again, I really like this one. I'm giving it 4 stars. Definitely going to be checking out Book of the White when it comes out in September. Hopefully Cassie Claire can tour, but who knows in this COVID world. But I wound up really, really enjoying it and really happy that I caught up. So the next book that I wound up reading was actually kind of a random one, but it was Cami Garcia's Teen Titans Raven, and it's also illustrated by Gabrielle Piccolo. I know nothing. I'll be honest. I know nothing about Teen Titans, but I got this. I think I got it at a book convention. I think essentially, but it basically follows this girl named Raven. There's a car accident that happens with her mom, her foster mom actually. And then she winds up living with her foster mom's sister, and some secrets about her past are revealed. It's set in school. I thought it was so fun. I thought that it dealt with like depression and anxiety after the death of a parent really well. I really like the magic system. I love the strong female friendship in this book. That was definitely like a highlight for me and one that I really enjoyed. I know the next one we're getting is going to be Beast Boy that's coming out in September, but I definitely really enjoyed it, and I would definitely check out more books in the series. It was just a book that I really wound up liking. There was a romance that I liked or enjoyed, I'll say. But yeah, I really, really like this one. And then the last book that I'm going to chat about is one that has been all over the interwebs recently, and that's White Fragility. I like this book. I thought that it was an important read for me to read because as a white woman living in America, I thought that this book was one that really was really interesting. just to like kind of like be in the headspace to read about. It was a very, very short read. It was one that I thought was really important. But I do want to stress, I think that it is important to read diversely about racism and anti-racist literature. So I picked this book up. I'm also reading Me and White Supremacy. I'm also reading quite a few other books. This is just one part in my anti-racist education. And I'm welcome for more comments and suggestions below. But this is just one book. Do I think it's a perfect book? No, I don't. Do I think it's, but I enjoyed what I took away from it. I have a person I follow on YouTube, and she says, devour everything in, devour everything and kind of just take what works for you. And I thought there was a lot of situations in this book that I could really, really relate to, or situations that I've been a part of and I really haven't said anything. And I think it really talked about white fragility and white silence, and those were topics that I think I needed to hear more about. So I'm not going to rate this book, but I would recommend checking it out if you want to engage yourself in that conversation as a white person, because I thought that it was very, very interesting. But yeah, these are the first 10 books that I wound up reading in the month of July. If I had to pick favorites, this month is actually pretty easy. I would say Definitely More Than Maybe by Erin Hahn was definitely my favorite. Definitely Keeper of the Lost City's Legacy, and definitely Chain of Gold. Those are like easy my favorite books of the month. But the other ones I actually wound up really enjoying. So I'll be back later in the week for my part 2 of my reading wrap up. And I hope you guys are staying safe and being well. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.